Fancy comes, shades on, knowledge wisdom.
Well, hello. Well, for those who are just tuning in and really don't know what the reality coach is all about, when you see me with these sunglasses on, it's sometimes we don't want to see the truth, but we're going to hear the truth. And when I take these sunglasses off, there's some real truth getting ready to come, y'all. Well, hello. This is none other than the wonderful pastor of justice for Friendship West Baptist Church under the leadership of Reverend Dr. Frederick Douglass Haynes III, who is a powerful man who really truly wants to make sure that everyone is fairly treated when it comes to any form of justice. And because I am not abreast of what social justice entails, and since this is the pastor of justice, she's going to give us some knowledge about what social justice really means and what it represents. And also there were questions sent in, and Reverend Ayers, did you get the questions? Because I don't want to catch anybody by surprise. There were some questions that I hopefully you sent, but I'm kind of.
I have the questions. I have the questions that you emailed me.
Okay, and I do know that there's some that I won't even bother with because they're kind of lengthy. So we'll just not even worry about those. But nonetheless, first of all, the first thing that I want you to get an opportunity to do is introduce yourself. I've introduced you, but I like for people to put their own take on who they are.
Okay, well, so I'm licensed and ordained clergy in the Baptist denomination, and I currently serve in full-time ministry at Friendship West Baptist Church, where I have been a member since 1998. So I have been with Friendship West since my early 20s. So, just a very winding journey to end up at the church, to work for a church. That was not my plans. You know how we all make plans of how we want life to go. And my journey just took a turn. And it has been a wonderful, amazing journey to do this work at Friendship West and to be able to really, connect with people, not just in this country, but around the globe who fight for justice in various portions of the world, because we realize that our struggles are connected. And that we cannot just be concerned about what happens to us right here in our own community and neighborhood. Yes, we give attention to that because that's our daily reality. But for me, it's also important to see ourselves, right, as part of a larger diaspora, that as Black people around the globe, we have this consistent, constant struggle for freedom in many ways. And it's white domination that is the world over. And so whether that's in South Dallas or South Africa, whether that's in Gaza, Congo or Chicago, we have to be able to see like the real systems that are at play that creates a lot of the issues that we talk about in our daily lives. And so for me, that's who I am. That's just who I am as a person. Looking back, I was that way as a child. It's just as I grew older, the maturation process, meeting people, being more in tune to my spirit and more in tune to God, I began to see where my journey was headed. And this is where I am. I ended up in Friendship West. Again, was not planned, but it just worked out that way in a very interesting way. But that's who I am. That's what I do. And my main, at the church, I'm primarily responsible for, number one, is to provide pastoral care to our members and to community members, right? And that pastoral care can be in times of bereavement, in times of grief, but it can also be in joyous times when someone's trying to make a life-changing decision on a job or to move. It is also dealing with the wounds, the soul trauma that people have from systems and institutions. And so that's something that I do. And it's also my responsibility to equip and to begin to pull the power, right, of the congregation together to know, what does it really mean to be Christian? So what does it really mean to come to church on a Sunday morning? But what we learn, how does that play out in everyday life? How do we, like God, how do we care about what happens in people's lives between Sundays? So it's, how does our faith show up in public life? How does it show up downtown at the city council meeting? How does our faith show up in Austin during the legislative session, sitting before committees giving testimony or going to DC, right? So in a nutshell, that's who I am. That's what I do. Of course, there's a lot of layers to that. But overall, that's who I am. That's what I do. I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee. But of course, I moved here in January '98, and I joined Friendship West the second Sunday in March. So I didn't have to, visit long. I joined one. I visited the first Sunday, joined the second Sunday, and that's
Wow.
ever since.
So you were on Polk and Keast.
No. By the time I came in '98, we were at yes, we were at Keast. Yes, I'm sorry, Polk and Keast. Yes.
Because I used to attend when you'd have to get in line about 45 minutes before the service started, so you can at least get to the end of devotion. That's how powerful Dr. Haynes has been since he started his ministry. He's dynamic, and he's always been from what the word is on the street is. He's always been one that's been into the political aspect of things, because he is all about people needing to be treated fairly, and he is definitely going to stand on that. I ain't seen but one church with Black Lives Matter up on the building off of 20, and that's Friendship West. So he's not afraid to stand up for what is right. Now, one thing I can say, he's not going to bag you. He'll bag you right or wrong, but in right, he's going to make sure you get treated right, and wrong, he's going to make sure you get treated right. So if you deserve what you get, he's going to make sure that you get what you deserve. And that you have to appreciate about Dr. Haynes. So let
me say this too, since you said that, because I think that is so important, particularly in the times in which we live, where a lot of leaders, particularly Christian leaders, right, they tend to bash a Pastor Haynes, someone who's willing to speak the truth in love, who will stand 10 toes down nonstop and never be knocked off his square, right? Because he believes in what he is doing. Like, he models his ministry after Dr. King, right? So, he ain't never scared. I mean, that's just part, and that's really what drew me to the church. When I went the first Sunday, just the ways in which he married, right, the Bible and reality, what was going on in everyday life. That was very important to me as a young 20-something-year-old. And it remains a core of who I am, just what I believe about who God is. It remains very central to my faith. And obviously, over the years, I've grown and matured along with Dr. Haynes, right, as we do this work now together. Now that I'm on staff. So and I appreciate you saying that about him, because a lot of times he often will get a lot of flack, right, for doing the work. Why are we out here doing this work? When the reality is, those who proclaim to be Christians, this is the type of ministry that Jesus had, right? When we look at a Jesus, the right interpretation of a Jesus, this was his ministry. And so I just want to thank you for bringing that up, because that's a big part of who I am. That's what I believe. That's why I joined the church. And I appreciate that Dr. Haynes continues to do that. He does not allow people to deter him, right, from speaking the truth and doing the ministry that God has called him to do. So thank you for that.
Right. And the thing, and that is one thing that keeps everybody in tune with him, because the strength and the courage that it takes for him to do what he's doing. And I can relate to that, because I am a realist and I'm caught up in this thing, and people are looking at me like all kinds of crazy. Like I'm not the norm. So I do understand how it is to be not quite in his shoes, because them some big shoes, but I'm over here. I got on some flip-flops. I don't even have on shoes.
We all have our unique journey. Have our unique journey. Yes.
Okay. So so how long have you been the pastor of Justice?
So I'm going to say 16 years, because I joined staff maybe 18 years ago. But when I originally joined staff, it wasn't this position didn't exist when I came on staff.
Really?
So no. So, I was working in corporate, decided to leave because I'm like, this not the life for me. I never climbed this ladder, because I'm constantly looking, if something was wrong, I'm going to say something, right? So I'm like, this just not where I need to be. And so I left corporate America, right? And like some people, when you're trying to figure out life as a young person, you work 2 and 3 jobs. So I was stocking greeting cards, working on political campaigns. And so I said, maybe I'll run for office. I need to be in office so I can change these laws and these policies, et cetera. Then I said, nope, that's not for me. And so, then the church called me. It's like, hey, we need someone to come and help out one of our staff pastors. just temporarily. You can come on temp, just help us out. I was like, great. That's like a 4th paycheck I can have coming in while I'm trying to figure this thing out. So, you know, come on, let's keep it real. You know, you got to pay them bills. And so I was just doing that, right? It was my church home. Everybody knew me because, again, I was very active in ministry. Even in corporate America, I was super active in ministry. Then our social action ministry is what it was called. Super active in that. And eventually it's like, well, can you come on full time to support this staff pass? I'm like, you know what? Sure. I'm tired of moving around with all these jobs anyway. So I did that. And so one day, you know, some, again, very active in ministry and out in community. And I just wrote up a job description. I think I called it social justice advocate. And I kind of listed roles, responsibilities, etc. And met with Pastor Haynes, like, hey, this is what we need on staff because you're preaching in the pulpit and you need somebody who can go to meetings and who can work on the structures, who can make, you know, help shape policy, who can really be in it day to day. And he was like, that's great. You do it. And that's how this started, right? And it was, then he changed the title to Minister of Justice. And then eventually years later, when I became licensed and ordained, that's why I was now Pastor of Justice. And so, and unbeknownst to me, years later, I found out when I approached him about this, but like creating this position, he was already in conversations with Dr. Frank Thomas about having this position. He just, I guess, never had moved on it just yet. And so that's how it happened, right? So I've been in this particular position for 16, but on staff for 18.
Wow. And you know, that's a sign of a great leader. When he gives someone a position, he's like, hey, I gotta be about my Father's business. I got a whole congregation that I gotta,
right,
you know, and answer to, not answer for, but answer to, and then answer for in some instances, but most cases answer to. So that's a sign of a great leader. And I'm learning. So I just caught that when you give someone a position, you do it. And if you need me, come talk to me. But don't bother me if you don't need me. I'll come to the rescue. Okay, so let me start asking you some of the questions that were sent in. Okay, the first question that people want to know, including me, because, you know, I'm real smart, but, you know, sometimes I can get things a little misconstrued. So what does social justice really consist of?
Yeah, so when I hear that question, what I hear is, what is social justice?
There you go.
Right. And so let me just also say this, because in this work, we have all kind of language, words, definitions, and people have different ways of explaining it. So I first want to say this is a way of understanding social justice. It is the way we understand it, Friendship West. And it's how I understand it.
Well, I'm still a way.
So for me, what is social justice? So for me, that is simply, you know, how are we dealing with instances, issues of injustice, right, that shows up in very social ways in our institutions, in our organizations, in our churches, right? It's more about what's the structure, what structure is in place that has either cracks in it or that was already deadly from the start, that creates a lot of the trauma that we see, whether that's criminal justice, environment. So I'm saying structural and also physical violence, right? So whether that's state sanctioned violence, right? That's a form of social injustice because that's rooted in a policing system, right? Or it could be environmental justice, wherein you have racist zoning policies that makes it legal in the city of Dallas to build dumps south of downtown. Or illegal dumping sites, like a Marsha Jackson over at Floral Farms to Shingle Mountain, where she had, you know, stories and stories of stacked up, you know, pollution that now she has become ill, and those in the community have become ill because the air is contaminated. And the shingles literally falling over into her front yard, into the creek behind her house. I've been out when Shingle Mountain was up. If you stood out there long enough, you would leave particles on your skin. Her white mailbox is always gray and black because of what's in the air. So it's or Flint, Michigan, when they switched the water on purpose and contaminated the water in Flint, Michigan.
Now you mean tell me Dr. Haynes is way over there in Flint, Michigan?
Hey, wherever.
Hey, that's now that's a leader.
Listen, I've told you, he models after Dr. King. Dr. King said an injustice anywhere is a threat to injustice, threat to justice everywhere. So it's about, and see, here's the other thing. So let me finish. I'm gonna park there and come back to that. What we should also understand about social justice, but is that right? Social justice. How are we dealing with injustices that show up in our society? Right. And oftentimes we're not talking about acts of compassion, acts of charity. We're not talking about people who are hungry, have a soup kitchen, have a food pantry. That is necessary. We must feed people, but you have to meet the immediate needs. But you have to get to the root of why are they hungry? Is it because we don't pay a living wage? Is it because we're not increasing wages as we have inflation? Is that why people are hungry? While corporations and corporate boards and directors and CEOs are getting $1 million bonuses? Is that why people are hungry? So social justice is about getting to the root cause of the problem. So it's not about individuals, though you may do individual acts to highlight the issue. But if you're to do justice work, social justice work, like how are we going at the root cause where, right? We can uproot that thing where we don't have to deal with this issue again. So that may mean we need to change some policies, rewrite some policies, and in some cases, enforce what you already have. Right? Like Dr. King told America, be true to what you put on paper. So, right. So part of that is understanding where you need to enter, but it's all about digging up that root. Right. And then it's also, this notion of this is more communal, it's more collective action as opposed to individual. So as an individual, I can go and, when we do a 616, our old location, our team mother does a beautiful job at having first choice groceries where people can come and shop and get fresh produce and non-perishable items, which we must do because people need food, especially with these food prices. And you have to have these increased rate in rent. I mean, money gotta, what I'm saying? Money has to move from one place to another. So we have to provide the food. But at the same time, right, that's individual. I can go do it and I can feel good about myself. Collective action is gonna be more of, okay, this is going to be controversial because it's going to expose some people, expose some things, or right, it's going to be controversial because now it's going against the norm. And
that is your pastor.
And so because you're going against the flow, right? You're going against the norm, and that's what Jesus did. Again, we modeled after that Black Palestinian Jewish man who was born in who's out of Nazareth, right? That's what he did. And so for me, that's social root cause, collective action. So you don't have to keep repeating that, right? And so sometimes that means you might stand alone. You're not going to have a huge crowd behind you. So you should never, in justice work, don't look for numbers. You look for who's going with you. Because for me personally, I don't beg people to come because you have to beg them to stay. And if you go out there and war, you're going to turn around and you're going to be by yourself. So it's about people understand, like, this is my passion. I have the commitment. I have the courage and the consistency to do the work. Because it's also, I say, this is not often a sprint. It's a marathon.
Amen.
So sometimes you may see the change you're looking for in your lifetime, but sometimes you may not. So how do we become less selfish, right? Because we all have our own self-interest. That's reality, right? Let's be real. We all have self-interest, self-preservation, but the question becomes in justice work, does your self-interest override what's best for the entire group? Right. So how do we also check our self-interest? No, this is what I'm interested in, but it's not just about me. So whether I get the credit, whether I see my name on the news, whether I see the change in my lifetime, I'm okay with that. And the reality is, Sister Pastor, me and you both are sitting here because there's some folk who did not see what they worked on and what they worked and hoped for, but we have been beneficiaries of that, right? So Hebrews 12:1 said, Hebrews 11, right, reminds us some died not receiving the promise. But then 12:1 says, but therefore you have this cloud of witnesses. And I love how Dr. Haynes says that are tapping you on your shoulder, right, to keep on doing this race that's set before you. And so for me, that's social justice, right? It's all of those things. So it's never about an individual. It's never about this quick fix. It's always about asking the hard question. Now, why is this like this? And that takes some digging. Sometimes it takes common sense. I'm not trying to be funny, but sometimes you can see what's right in front of you and know, okay, y'all running game. I see how y'all doing it. You understand what I'm saying? So some of it is that, and then some of it really is you have to read the policy, you have to read the laws, but you also have to be actively engaged. And that means when it's not a presidential election year, when it's not an election, are we paying attention to who's moving the pieces on the chessboard? Because if you don't get engaged in systems are going to engage you one way or the other. So my thing is, we in the game, we might as well play to win.
Wow.
And if you sit and wait, if you think your community does better just by osmosis or just because, that's not how it happens. When you see community flourishing, somebody's downtown advocating. Somebody is down in Austin advocating. Somebody is in DC advocating. Somebody at these organizations and institutions saying my community needs this, that, and so. So for me, that's social justice. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's
it answered it thoroughly.
That's all forms of it, right? It can be gender justice, right? So we deal with Black maternal health because Black women are 3 times more likely to die in childbirth as any other woman. Now, how is that possible in the year of our Lord 2023? Why are Black women not surviving? That's the question. So I could easily go to a family who may have had a loved one pass away and see how I can help them. But wait, no. How about we not have any Black women dying? So how about I go look at, well, why are they dying? Is it because they don't have coverage? Is it because there's implicit bias in the medical system? Medical apartheid is going on? That's the work that I do. And that work is sometimes, and I know people, I think sometimes we just look at, well, I don't see you out there. Maybe I'm back here reading these policies. I'm reading these laws. I'm having meetings. I'm reading history. I'm reading data so that I can better understand how do we fix this problem at the root so no other woman dies. Right. So I look at it as I tell people, you go feed somebody, you might feed 500 people. That's going to be on the news. But what if you change the policy that could feed 5 million people?
That won't make the news.
That's not going to make the news. Right. And so for me, that's social justice. And I want to go back to what I was saying about Flint and saying that we're not just Flint, right? We're concerned about wherever we see something unfold. And that's because for me, at least, that goes back to my original commentary when I said, and how I see myself as part of a larger diaspora, that we have a God without borders. Right. So for me, and Micah 6:8 says that what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with God? And better translated is how to walk wisely with God. And Dr. Alan Buzak, a South African theologian, says to walk wisely with God means you walk wherever God is walking in the world. So yes, that means God is walking at the Texas border where they now want to arrest migrants, not fix the immigration policy, but just arrest the people. Right. So God is walking everywhere in the world, and particularly in places where people are clinging to hope, where life is very fragile, where people don't know where to turn. That's where we ought to be, wherever that is. And we shouldn't find it robbery when I'm talking about feeding a child somewhere in the Congo, that doesn't mean a child in South Dallas goes hungry. Because see, that means we believe in a God of scarcity. I believe in a God of abundance. That's more than enough. It's more, but it's the greed. Are we asking the questions about what that city budget look like?
Well,
what that federal budget look like? Where's that farm bill? How much money y'all giving to SNAP as opposed to giving to corporate tax breaks? Right. That's what we have to ask. That's justice. That's, for me, that's social justice.
Wow. So let me ask you this question, and this is one that, now you said something that was so true. And the reason why I'm so involved is because, see, God sometimes have to knock you into a disposition in order to be in a position to really not be so self-centered. You know all about the situation with my son and all of that. And I thank you all for just standing with someone. And let me say this real quickly. People, when you go to these places like Friendship West that have a social justice or a justice ministry, please go so they don't have to do all the work, because they've got so much work to do.
Thank you.
I mean, and this hasn't been easy. I have had many sleepless nights, but when I presented what I presented to the justice ministry at Friendship West, I didn't come half-deuced. I didn't come saying, give me. I came, can you really help me help myself even more? I came packaged up. That's just the way it is. And I just want to put that out there. But here's a question that I want people to, I would love for you to answer. And it's, how do you feel about the city of Dallas giving the oversight more money to enable it the abilities to investigate, arrest, and prosecute officers that have violated citizens' rights and expand their alleged subpoena powers. And just real quickly, God bless and give peace to former district attorney Craig Watkins and his.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I thank you for speaking his name now as may the ancestors continue to guide him safely through to the other side. So thank you for speaking his name, because part of, and again, so part of social justice includes what? The criminal justice system and the policing system, right? And so for me, at least, and I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to loan because I feel this context is so important too, right? So part of one of the things we begin to get really engaged in criminal justice reform was when Craig Watkins was DA, and we dealt with over 24 men who were released, right, who were wrongfully convicted. One, Anthony Graves, who came and gave his powerful story of being exonerated off of death row. Right. And out of that, we began to do criminal justice reform with the Innocence Project and some other criminal justice organizations. I always tell people, Friendship West, we do a lot, but we are a church. Right. We don't have attorneys. We're not a criminal justice organization. And again, as I said, we do we deal with systems, right? We go after the systemic ways that cause injustice and inequities. And so for me, going through that process, meeting those men, talking to those men, going to Austin, and seeing the ways in which laws are written, how I can easily tell how people can be wrongfully convicted was a problem, right? Very problematic. And just understanding that the criminal justice system has never been fair and just to Black people, period, in this country, right? We always looked as punitive, right? It's always about law and order for Black people, punish, and some of the same crimes others commit. If they go to jail, right? It's going to be significantly less sentences, right? So for me, I think the community oversight boards are critical in the city of Dallas, and I'm saying across the country, right? That is one major movement you saw, right, in all of the state-sanctioned violence and the killings that we saw. It was like, we need community oversight. Someone needs to police the police based on what we saw and what we know to be fact. So for me, I think that is a good thing. And I think you really have to do more expansion, because the oversight board as it is really an administrative arm. When you start talking about prosecutorial, like, you have to give them a different set of powers, because then you're talking about judicial system. You're talking about laws. You're talking about a trial. That requires a whole. So to me, it was either you would have to shift from being administrative, or you're administrative and now you have another arm to this thing, because that's a major shift to have prosecutory powers, right? But I definitely would agree with increasing funding to really shore up and strengthen our community oversight police. I think that's important to do, right? So I think that's a good thing to do. And I would even say, not only a community oversight, but I say, how do we also as people begin to radically reimagine policing in the first place? Like, what is our vision of what it means for our communities to be places where we, even if we self-police, can we ever get to that point where we can self-police our own communities in neighborhoods and not necessarily depend on outside coming in to police us, to watch over us, right there, because you always have this gaze on us anyway. Just for walking down the street, for breathing, right? Let's be clear. Sometimes you just breathing, just because the fact you're breathing, you Black and you walking can be a problem. So I definitely agree with, the increased money to, just to have to shore it up, to make it stronger as an administrative arm. But yeah, the prosecutorial, I think that would definitely take some work through. What does that look like? And how do you even build something like that outside of the traditional criminal justice system, right? What does that look like? So that's a good question. But yeah, I would definitely agree, just in terms of increasing money to that oversight committee to do the work that it needs to be strengthened. And again, if we're looking at what does it mean to be transparent, what does it mean to be fair, then I think, you have to do that to get the best community oversight. Now, we have to keep our eye on Austin, though, right? Because House Bill 48, I think it's 4882, I think it was 4882, something like that. But it did not make it out a special session, but they certainly tried, and they're going to try it again. Because one thing we know about Texas lawmakers, when it doesn't make it in one session, they come right back with more force. So somewhere people need to organize in 24 to get ready for 25, the 89th legislative session, to not try to have, so this bill does not come back up again and make it out. Because that bill is going to severely limit not just Dallas, but municipalities around the state of Texas when it comes to community oversight boards, fire, etc. Like they're really pushing to limit that. And so you talk about expanding with money, you may not even have, the way it's going, you may not even have a community oversight board. They're trying to limit and not just in that area, but in many areas, the state is trying to strip cities of their power to govern their cities best for their own citizens.
So that is what you do in the for lack of a better word, in the shadow. You're reading these bills, you're educating, because a lot of times, let me put these on because I'm going to talk about me too. A lot of times I don't want to read all the fine print. I would much rather have a Pastor Ayers, who's the pastor of justice, go and read it and then bring it back to me short term. But then if I have a question, then I will go and look at it. But for the most part, I appreciate what you're doing in the shadow, because I hadn't even heard of that bill,
Yeah, but let me say, I wouldn't even say in the shadow, and that's where we have to even change our language. Because other people doing this in wide open, they meeting, they getting it done. We're just, I think because for us, life is, and our community stuff is so rough, we're constantly responding, right? Because it seems as though there's always an assault, whether it's a shingle mountain, whether it's a police shooting, whether it's we can't find good access to food in our neighborhood, we can't get a specialist on this side of town, we got to drive way up north to go see a specialist. We're constantly dealing with the day-to-day. And so what I'm saying, I challenge people, those of us who have the privilege to have the time to do this kind of work, join in. Our attorneys, our paralegals, our retired judges, we can use their expertise, right? To have someone, to your point, follow these bills, read them, and pull out the main points. Give us a quick cheat sheet. Give me my 5 things I need to know about this bill, right? So that's the work of, and a lot of wonderful organizers in this city and across this country that work with. That's the work they do every day. So thank you for that question. I kind of expanded that, but I think we have to look at sometimes things not so compartmentalized. We do have to kind of see what's ancillary to these things or what's connecting to them, so that we can move forward in a way that's more comprehensive, so we don't get a small victory. Oh, now we got to go do this. Let's think ahead. Let's think short-term, mid-term, long-term goal. And let's always look at what's connecting to one issue and what can impact that one issue.
Okay.
So,
yeah,
but thank you for that question.
I know you have to get out of here, but I just got to ask.
I can give you I can maybe 5 more minutes, then I can jump in the car and get to where I need to go.
Okay. Now, what I want to ask you, and I think you kind of hit at it, but I want you to really, if you can, give an expanded version on how important is it for the community to gather. Okay, we know that the media, they send, well, I won't say you'll say this, I'm going to say it. Mm-hmm. The media will sensationalize every turn that they can to make numbers. It's about money for the media. So how important is it for the community and the citizens who want to help with this situation? How important is it for them to get the facts for themselves and not always just go off of what the media says? Because a lot of times, like in my son's case, he was labeled serial. One person shows up, and they never brought anything else up about the case. So how important is it for the community to get involved and get the information? Because a lot of times they may not bring it back up.
Yeah, well, I just think in general, just on GP, right? We should all seek the truth no matter what. And we should just be in the habit of, when you hear something on the news or on social media, that we all need to do a little bit, just peel back. Sometimes you just peel back a half layer, you will find out more truth than what's a lie. Sometimes you don't have to dig that deep, because people just put stuff out there, right? So that, I think we just have to be in the habit of getting to the truth for yourself. That's number one. Number two, I also believe, yes, I agree with you with the media in that regard, but also here's the other thing. I've seen people go viral. I've seen people who get to thousands and millions of subscribers. Social media can be a very, very powerful tool based on how we use it. So yeah, the media can do that, but we've seen ways in which we have got jumped on social media and told another narrative. So you got to have this. For me, it's like, what's the narrative power that we use? How do we tell the story our way? And how do we, with that, with the ability to have these platforms and go viral, then put the truth out there? We don't have to necessarily wait on mainstream media to tell our story. And so that's the other thing. So sometimes we have power. It's, do we organize that power in all these various ways? And I will also say, how do we get better at supporting our Black press? And how do we keep thinking, particularly like mainstream white press is better somehow than our Black press? So how do we support them to also tell our story? So I think, so yeah, the media, yes, I agree with you 100%. But at the same time, I'm always looking at, well, what's the solution? What are we going to do? Well, and I think we have some things that we can do to make sure that if a lie is out there, how do we counter that lie with the truth? And some of us just have to do our own research and get the full facts. And then how do we begin to tell the truth and use social media to do that, and our Black press to do that?
Well, I have, and I'll say this in all fairness, and I'm saying this, I have reached out to our Black press. And that's what I'll say to that. Okay. But I'm very supportive of the Black press, and I want to. I don't know why they don't do certain things, and maybe it's just because I'm not sure how it all works. Perhaps that's what I need to learn. So I will try to eventually get someone on here from the Black press, so maybe they can explain to me why I feel like I've been slighted by the Black press. Maybe it's a protocol or a standard way of operating that they need to do things. So in all fairness, maybe that's where I'm clueless at, just like I was a little clueless about social justice. But thanks to you, Pastor Ayers, I now got a better understanding of it. And like you said, I do need to still go and do some research myself to get more equipped to work with pastors like you and people who are trying to advocate for justice for all. And in closing, I would just I want people to know, yes, Friendship West, well, I'm speaking, Friendship West is a church under a Black leader, but their justice is not just for Blacks at Friendship West. Justice is for anyone. She said the border, people in Michigan, it wasn't just Black people messed up with the water, it was all people. They fight for justice for everyone. So social justice just doesn't include one nationality, but the nationality that seems to have the most social disparities and injustice are the people that are my shade and Pastor Ayers' shade. Just so put that out there. So I don't want people to go back and say, well, they're just the church, it's just for them. No.
Thank you for that. And that's so true, right? We're just about equity. We're about equality, and we're about doing what is right. And to your point, we can't now, because I said before, I believe white domination is the world over, and it shows up in our institutions. So we didn't bake the cake, but then the bake, Dr. Wright would say, you left the sugar out, right? And you can't go back and add sugar once the cake is done. Well, right, you have to rebake that cake. And we're saying we didn't bake the cake, but we are here trying to bring it down and build up something that's more just, more equitable, that leads to compassion, justice, love, hope, and healing. And that's what we do. And wherever wherever God is walking in the world. So that means in the Appalachian Mountains where the poor white folks are, that's where we will be. You understand? So it's about doing what is right. But we just so happen to be the main ones who are most impacted, because that's the way the system was designed at its outset. When the ship arrived, I'm not gonna say when the first Black folks set foot on this soil, because they were here long before 1619. But when the white line set sail and hit these shores, we were never intended, right, to benefit from the systems.
Well, with that being said, y'all, that was some truth that you may not want to see, but you sure just heard it. Pastor Ayers, thank you so much. I can't say how much we appreciate what you're doing. And although we probably don't show it as much as we need to, I appreciate you, because just having Friendship West name, when you drop Dr. Haynes' name, just saying that he's into this social justice, he's into justice, period, is enough to make anybody tremble in their shoes that are not doing just things.
Right.
So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the ministry and talk about what I do, and certainly an opportunity to continue to really stand with my pastor, who I know oftentimes, because of what he does, has to, he can feel he out there by himself, right? So we want him to know he does have folk behind him who support him. And I so appreciate the opportunity to serve in that capacity and to grow, right? In myself, to grow. And he's such an amazing leader that he's not intimidated, and he doesn't have a problem with me flourishing and growing, because he knows that's a reflection on him, of him being an awesome person, right? So I so appreciate that. And
well,
thank you again.
You can't get in the fast lane, no way. You got to stay in one of them lanes over there, because Freddie Haynes is in the fast lane, and boy, to catch up with him, you got to be pretty. I don't even think I don't even.
I got to keep up with him. That's where you're wrong. He in the I got to be in the fast lane too, because I got to keep up. No, ma'am.
Well, that's right, because you are the pastor of. Duh. Okay. Well, keep being silver to the Lone Ranger.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me run out of here before I'm late. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye. Okay, thank you. Happy holiday.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Well, we want to keep it going. We want to keep going. Well, hello, Mr. King.
How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Wonderful. So you were listening in backstage. So what would you add to what was just being said?
Well, it's a lot that I can add to it, but she pretty much said it real. She laid out the blueprint for everything. But basically, I want to say that, we can talk about Black media, white media, but sometimes white mainstream media is the one that wants the juicy gossip, because you got to understand lies and juicy gossip sells. And you have a lot of media, especially Black media, that shy away from certain words and certain categories of things that you deal with, because of, per se, they've already, you're proven guilty until proven guilty with them. They see the words. Just because media said doesn't mean. You have thousands and thousands of people that have been mishandled and have been exonerated because of what the media has done. The media will kill you, and the jury would go right behind, because they see the media if it's mainstream. So I would like to say that. But as far as justice in the prison system, we already know that there's an habitual mistrust when it comes to African American people in the courtrooms, that it's just like playing a PlayStation. It's like playing a video game now, the way they're putting guys away systematically. If we make up 13% of the population in America, high as 48% of the population in prison look like me. So it was designed like that systematically. And you got to understand that after slavery, don't you not know, just good history, a year after slavery, they put in more prisons and jails and changed the whole system because of people that was released in slavery. That's when the numbers started going up, because in the beginning, the prison system and jail system was made like that. But a year after, they started construction, after they did the Emancipation of Proclamation with Black people, and they started building jails and prisons, because they had already felt what they was going to do. Because if you can get killed and murdered just for whistling at a white woman, then what do you think how it was back then? So I think that it's a stigma with a lot of people, because they got, I'm just saying, Caucasian people, they have the complexion, for protection. I can get stopped and I can go to court and with the same charges, and they do it. And it's the biasness is not trying to be hid. The judicial system in America is not trying to hide how they feel about about minorities. Let's just say minorities, because when I say us, I'm talking about everybody that's minority. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about Latinos. I'm talking about African Americans, Black, now whoever you are. It's always a bias, and it's a habitual. Like I said, it's an habitual game when they see you, because typically you in a poor environment, you come out of a poor environment. You don't have the funds. They give you a court-appointed a lawyer that actually works sometimes as a DA. Sometimes they switch. A lot of the game that they play in the judicial system is just like that. And to be honest with you, the court system is basically broke down in the one term. It's a competition of lies. Period. The court system is nothing but a competition of lies. So no matter how you want to look at it, that's exactly how the court system works. So no matter what you want to look at it, whether you're financially embarrassed, predominantly most of them are, or whether you're not, the court system operates off who can lie the best, who can present the most. And back in the 80s and 70s, money used to get you off with the judges back then. Bribes, behind the scenes, chat room, they go play golf together. The DA and your lawyer would go to banquets. They all, it's the same little click and circle with the judicial system. All the judges go to the same golf court. They all go to the same banquet. They all, because they got, just like when you was at school, they got little signs on the bulletin board. Or they having a this, they having a party. It's going to be here and there. This judge is hosting this. So everybody know each other. And it's a game. The behind things. But as far as judicial system, and as far as someone helping you, I don't see no color lines when it comes to trying to help somebody represent justice. Because no matter how you want to look at it, it's more people that are non-black helping people that are black than black people, because we got a bias. We're gonna ask 1,000 questions. We act prosecuted when I'm not even locked up.
Well. First of all, now this is some dark truth y'all may not want to hear, but you get ready to hear. Now, what he just said, black people will prosecute their own people, and I'm a living witness of this. I am sitting here with you've been with me on this journey with my son's case. You have seen the official documents, the official records, and you still hear how people are saying everything but what needs to be said. Why is this man sitting in prison and DNA clears him? And the people that are doing this are the people that look like us.
Well, this is nothing new. I mean, listen, this is recycled injustice that's continuing even to this day. And let me first and pause and say, rest in peace to Craig Watkins, man. Rest in peace to the ex district attorney Craig Watkins, who made history. He was exonerating men off of death row, showing that
the first black.
And not only did they get it, they really got him out really for that reason, because he was actually exposing the injustice that was happening in Texas. And they turned around after they got him out and they put a dope fiend in there. They put a dope fiend in there to take his place. That's just to show you the biasness of her. She was all on camera snorting pills and doing drugs because she was a dope fiend, and they knew it. That's why they got her out of there. The ex-DA, after they put out of him, you rather have someone that's on drugs than to have a proper DA. And he was a good DA. They wouldn't even fund him after he started exonerating people. No one would even give any money to the fund, and to even try to get people with DNA and everything. So no matter how you want to look at the system, is designed against us. It's designed against minorities. It's designed. I know. No matter how you want to look at it and how you want to believe it, they done went from lynching with the thing to lynching you in the courtroom. They do drive-bys right in the courtroom, but they do it legally now. And every time that you beat
they don't do it. They don't do it. It's not legal. It's illegal. It's underneath the umbrella of legal.
It's legal. Listen to me. If it's in the court books, it's legal. Now, how they get around it? Now, here's this how this works in the court system. It's legal until you challenge it and they make it illegal, and then they'll make another case to fit it where they still can go around it. Listen, you see the woman with the blind justice. They show you it's blind. They letting you know that the legal system is not 100% correct, and it's never been, especially toward minorities. Now, when you got habitual bias in the courtroom and people they just had a case. They just got a case that a prosecutor and 2 judges are going on trial right now for railroading a guy that did 36 years in prison. The DA,
it's about time.
Find it, and I'm like, but this one out of millions.
But here's the thing. Now it's getting once you see what these people don't understand. Once one start, it becomes a snowball effect, because guess what? There are people in Dallas that need to start paying attention to what's going on around them, because Dallas is hot for this. Dallas is notorious for this kind of stuff with those that are on trial for right now.
Historical.
Oh,
they've been doing. Hey, listen. To know the system is to know evil.
Woo.
To know the system is to know evil, because that woman they say blind justice is exactly what it is. Listen, once again, bottom line, the courtroom, the judicial system goes like this. It's a competition of lies
and numbers,
whether guilty or not,
and numbers.
Against a jury or a judge and can present a case, present something well enough where they can actually change a person's mind about that and they say any reasonable doubt. which is a lie. That shows you one lie because it's a whole lot of cases. And then you got to understand how the jury pool go. Once the jury go in and they be tied after 5, 6 days, they start pressuring the two people to go with guilty or not. They start pressuring them.
Well, before that, even before that, they're going to make sure that they pick a jury that's going to more than likely go with what they want, because they will ask improper voir dire questions. And y'all, and look, I don't know how Mr. King knows what he knows, but I'm going to tell you how I know what I know. I've sat in the courtroom and watched this, and I pray that no one ever has to find themselves sitting in this position that I'm in a courtroom to witness what he's talking about.
The reason why I know about it, because I've been doing pro bono work way since the 80s. I've been doing pro bono work and free behind the scene work for a lot of lawyers. A lot of lawyers and a lot of people. That's how I know. I do pro bono work. I am not a certified lawyer, but I know this law just like a lawyer does. I know how to do the writs, write the writs, do everything that's needed to be done. I can even do oration if I need to. So a lot of the things that I know is on first-hand experience. Way before this incident happened with your son and your other son, I was already in the loop. I got a 30 year run on this with people, my family member, cousins, people that I know. I learned the law on my own.
And let me say this about you. One thing I know that you have said from day one, when this all first started with my son, you said from day one, this is not going to work. It's too terribly done. And we didn't know how we still are waiting, but you have been very accurate with your summations so far, with what's going on with this case.
Because I've seen it 1,000 times. See, when you done been in this over and 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 over, I know how the system works. I know how it works. And it has nothing to do with justice. It has something to do with numbers. Numbers outride justice. They can care less about justice. They're worrying about numbers and trying to get the funding and making sure that the courtrooms dockets get cleared at a certain time. Like they'll start clearing the courtroom from starting in October, so that the judges and the other people can take their vacations in November and December and near spring. So a lot of this, man, is systematically biasness on the judicial system where they're allowing to happen. A lot of this stuff has been going on so long. When somebody speak about it, they're gonna remove you, just like they did Craig Watkins. When you start exposing the system, they're going to remove you. And if you do something like when things come back on your son case and he win the appeal, they're gonna come away where he can't never do that. No other inmate can never do that again. They're gonna fix it. They're gonna fix the law where it'll never happen again. That's how it works.
And I went to see Craig Watkins in regards to my son's case, and it was so sad for me to look at a broken man. It hurt my heart to see how a man goes from the height of his career to a broken man. Dallas can do that.
Well, if you're not one of the good old boys and you don't know how to keep your mouth shut and just get the hush money and move along with everybody else and be like everybody else, you're not going to be successful in the judicial world. You're not going to be successful in the bar. You're not going to be successful as a judge. You have to go along with the evil. Period.
If you need the money.
And it don't know. It's, to be honest with you, it's not even a lot of times. It's not even about money. It's about name, prestigious, and I need to make sure that my grandson, when he come out of college, come out of law school, and come out of this, that he can end up being in my position, and I can help him to move on to the appellate courts. Everything is done. See, here's how it works. They think judicial generational wealth for their children and their family and their friends and their constituents. I know friends of mine that, because they're such good friends with the judge, they put my friends of mine's daughter as the DA, training her as assistant DA. It's because they got the same mindset. See,
I was gonna say not everybody is in it for that.
True, but I'm trying to show you something. Just you have certain very few dudes that stick out by themselves that's militant, such as Mr. Collins, Attorney Collins,
Bradrick Collins.
He's who?
Bradrick J. Collins.
Yeah, Bradrick Collins, Attorney Collins. Once you catch somebody like him, he's 1 in a million.
1 in a million.
And guess what? He's very unorthodox. So when he come in the courtroom, he not swinging like a real boxer. He everywhere. You don't know where he at. So when you got men that's actually got a heart for it, which you have very few because they become complacent, rich, fat, diabetes, high blood pressure, 10 mistresses, a lot of money, her gone. So when they come to that point, it's not even about that no more. It's about trying to put somebody else in my position to push on my legacy. That's where it's about.
And I must say, and I thank Mr. Collins for not caring about all of that. I mean, he cares about the law and the facts, not the acts, but the facts. And that is something that he has really done very well. And I am so grateful.
His verbiage is not even courtroom verbiage. When he go in there, he make his own dialogues. He make his own verbiage when he's in the courtroom, and he speaks his mind. He don't back down. He don't care about your money. And like I said, you don't find men like him. Very few. He's like 1 in a million. You're not gonna find anyone like him, because it's so odd and so distinguished. When he come in the courtroom, listen, he's the black sheep of the courtroom. He's the judicial black sheep of the courtroom, because he didn't set his own trail that other people are gonna follow. He's not following their path. He done created his own path that other people gotta follow. And very few follow his path, because he's not gonna have a lot of friends. He's not gonna be popular, but he get the job done in a rightful manner.
So I would say that Bradrick Collins on the attorney side is what Dr. Haynes is in the church side. They're both leaders who are unapologetically going for what they believe in, and that is the rights of people. Human rights, y'all. December is National Human Rights Month, and I appreciate leaders like Dr. Haynes, like Bradrick Collins, although Bradrick Collins doesn't get the recognition, but he will, because people are going to seek him out, because he's not about the fame or the fortune. He's about misfortune turned into justice.
Well, everybody know that Freddie Haynes Church, Friendship West, is like the plateau of judicial. When you hear Freddie Haynes, you hear justice. You hear somebody fighting for you. You hear about a voice, whether you got money, whether you rich, poor, black, white, Latino, or other race. Freddie Haynes and Friendship West and his staff and faculty has always been about justice, seeking justice, and overly, and like I said, overly letting people know exactly what the justice system doing. So like I said, I commend men such as him. But like I said, even with Freddie Haynes, 1 in a million. That church, 1 in a million. And you have people around him that are like-minded, that's doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, well, I see, Reggie, you've made it here. Do you want to close us out real quickly? Because we got about 3 minutes.
Well, with everything that's been going on, and I did hear some of what brother was saying. I was having some technical issues on. As you see, I finally got them rectified. However, what we need to do going forward, I made mention of this last week upon Craig Walker's passing, and definitely rest in peace, and definitely hopefully better days ahead for his family, is the fact that we have to capitalize on what has happened in the past and try to move forward. I just reached out to Terrence Hawkins of the Dallas Black Police Officers Association, and we're coming up with a proposal that's probably make things a lot safer on the streets, because with these, with now that guns are legalized, now everybody's carrying a gun. Cops have to be a lot more careful, but we don't want to be extra trigger happy either. So, and I'm hoping that we can all move together and amalgamate our talents and make 2024 a bigger step toward trying to get equality and justice for all.
Wow. And I want to say thank you to you two men. You all have been pillars for me going through this with my son. I just don't know if I could. I mean, I know God's with me, and God guided you all my way, and I'm grateful, because you all have been very informative in how this thing works, and y'all's wisdom and your work history with this stuff is unbelievable. So you people, if y'all want to know, you want somebody that's not going to charge you an arm and a leg just to give you some information, reach out to Adonis King and Just Cause Coalition. Y'all want to tell them how they can find you? Information about where they can find you? Go ahead, Mr. King.
Actually, you can find me on Facebook under Mr. Comedian. You can DM me under Mr. Comedian, MYSTER, comedian spelled with a KKHOMEDIAN. I'm actually in the mix of next year changing everything up because I'm doing some other things as far as pro bono work, and I'm going to have a page specifically for that, and I have someone that's going to actually take calls as far as like a switch, like a call board switch center and all this. I'm setting all that up for next year. It'll be a whole different plateau because not only am I a comedian and an actor and a writer, I'm also a community active. That's one of my biggest plights right there. I can care less about the comedy and everything else. As far as trying to help people move forward, that's what I'm about. So that's where you can find me at.
Okay, Mr. Ruffin.
Yes, well, you can reach me at 214-931-5645. Email is reggieruffin50@gmail.com. And yes, like I said, we're going to be moving forward on some bigger and better endeavors to try to level out this playing field, because it's not funny when we're the ones out there dying. And no matter how much we try to stand up for each other, there's always one of us is kicking us from out from under, and that's something we definitely need to get beyond that.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. And like he just said, it's very important that we as a people come together and stop crucifying our own more than people that don't look like us. Adonis King, you hit on that too. Sometimes it's the people that don't look like us that help us the most. And I must say, in this case, that's what I'm starting to see. Outside of Friendship West, hey, whites have been the best. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. And it's sad. It's sad. So, gentlemen, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me. And I promise you all, if you reach out to these men, they can keep you encouraged, and they can also give you heads up on some of the things that's going on. You all have a great holiday.
All right.
Be blessed. Bye. And
Bye.
Again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Much love.
There she go, there she go. The reality leaving truth, knowledge, wisdom, shades on. There she go, there she go. The reality leaving truth,